Good evening and welcome to NYCryptoTalk. Today's project is on Zilliqa. So Zilliqa project is a cryptocurrency that you guys voted for on my Twitter poll on what I should review this week. So my weekly poll concluded with Zilliqa being one of the highest voted projects. It does seem to be in high demand. It is a secure, scalable blockchain platform that utilizes sharding technology. So, without further ado, I wanted to bring you guys a review of it. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of updates on the project, a lot recently as well. So, I'll try to get through this as quick as possible while still diving into the details on the project, and if I feel this is a good project, great project, something you should pass on, or if it's just something that kind of looks like all the others, which, hint, it's not. Alright, so next gen high throughput blockchain platform. They have recently released their public testnet, and I will link it, and I will also show what they can do right now on their public blockchain. Obviously, this is just part one of their blockchain. They are working on it right now. The main portions is the wallet, transactions, and the block explorer. You can't mine, and you can't do a lot of the other functions yet. The documentation that they have behind the project is fantastic. They have a white paper, which is technically a technical white paper. There's a position paper, which is more of a traditional white paper. There's a smart contract paper that breaks down the technical details of how their smart contracts will work. And then there's our mega FAQ, which I kind of based a lot of my information off, which is they took feedback from the community and built it into a FAQ about the project, which goes into technical details, fundamental details, and just project details. So I thought it was really cool. There is a lot of news articles, partnerships that they have on the project, and this is where they talk about what they're currently doing in their testnet. So their testnet currently has 6 shards and 3,600 nodes performing at 2,488 transactions per second. All nodes are currently running on AWS EC2 instances. So very cool that their transactions per second is so far at that amount with just 6 shards. So 6 shards at 600 nodes each. There is a bunch of news updates. Their team details are quickly going to their team. I've never seen as many PhDs on a project on their core team as Zilliqa. So when it comes to their team, they do have PhDs up the wazoo. And that is a great thing. They do have a lot of people who are very, very well versed in the blockchain sphere, in computer science, in privacy, security, distributed ledger systems, well, as far as blockchains, web browsers, cybersecurity, as I mentioned. So there is a lot of potential with this team. That's just some of the people there. There is more people. I broke out most of them. There's a lot of PhDs. I don't think there's any more PhDs here on the core team. Going to the advisor teams, there are more PhDs. There's a handful more PhDs on the advisors for mathematics, computer science, cryptocurrency, smart contract work, distributed consensus algorithms. So there is quite a lot of potential with the team involved in Zilliqa as far as just knowing the background, where they need to be, what the project contains, and how they can differentiate themselves. As far as the roadmap is concerned, this is the near-term roadmap. Right now we are currently at the testnet Q1 2018. This is the initial testnet that was released at the end of March, last day of March. They do plan in Q2 to have a smart contract alpha and a testnet version 2.0 also in Q2. Their smart contract beta and the mainnet are both meant to be launched in 2018. The smart contract is going to be beta though. This most likely will be a Q4 release for their actual smart contracts and building on their platform. They don't have the details on that as of right now. Their Twitter account is very active. They have 27,000 followers, so definitely check them out. Great details on their page. As I mentioned, their testnet had just gotten released on March 31st. Codename Red Prawn, which I thought is really funny because they talk about red prawn being a type of durian fruit, which is one of the stinkiest fruits out there, which I don't know why they chose that name. And let's see, did they have a... Yeah, red prawn is a variety of durian known for its orange-red color and curved flesh resembling that of a shrimp, and is highly prized for its sweet taste. So very interesting. So as I mentioned, they have 2,000 to 3,000 nodes achieving 2,000 to 3,000 transactions per second, which they have met. They have 3,600 nodes, and they are achieving almost 3,000 transactions per second. And they have 6 shards. So they are a little bit ahead of what they had released initially. And they talk a little bit more about the actual testnet and the details on there. There have been some more updates on the project. This was released yesterday, and they have a lot more information about the project, what's currently on the testnet, the explainer video, which is there on their YouTube page, which I'll open up. It shows you how to go through their testnet and play around with their testnet. Right now, they have a lot of tours coming up. They have more events, as I mentioned. They talk about their core protocol a little bit more on the testing and the development of their testnet, what they're adding right now with the wallet, the block explorer, and the background behind it. Zilliqa in the press, they have more information there. So there's a good video on their Zilliqa YouTube page where you can actually see what the testnet looks like and what kind of transactions and tests you can do on it right now. Zilliqa also had an infographic contest recently, which I thought was really funny because they called out a ton of people. If you go on their Twitter page, it's literally hundreds of entries they had. I think they had 180 entries, I believe. It was intense, kind of going through their Twitter page trying to find actual information. All you see is infographic, 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 infographic. Mind you, all their stuff is awesome. These people are really amazing when it comes to these infographics. But then again, with the actual surprises, I can't imagine why. Round trip to Singapore, in-person meeting and dinner with the Zilliqa team, and 200,000 ZILs, which I believe is quite a bit, with the price currently sitting at about, give or take, 5 cents. So quite a lot of money. Very cool project. Right now, in CoinMarketCap, I'll go a little bit more into details. They're ranked number 46 with a market cap of approximately $300 million. Their total supply is 12.6 billion with a circulating supply of 6.6 billion. So it is a very, very high circulated coin, but this is because of the way they work with their sharding and their high transaction. They need the ability to utilize the circulation in order to perform what their project entails. So the reason they have the high circulating count is due to the transaction and the speed needed for the project. So I know a lot of people hate high circulating supplies. Obviously, the dollar value is never going to be $100, $200, $1,000, $20,000, but you will see, the need and the use case for it in the future. That's why a lot of the bigger names or more centralized ones like Ripple have a high circulating count because they need to have that for their transaction speed. So, going into the project, let's talk about Zilliqa. So it is a blockchain that is trying to utilize sharding to work on the scaling issue that we have. Right now, there are a lot of blockchains that are handicapped due to the ambition to scale to the next generation, i.e. Ethereum, Bitcoin, and all these platforms. They can only handle X amount of transactions per second, X amount of transactions per day, and this causes an issue. So Zilliqa is a new blockchain that is designed to securely scale in an open, permissionless, distributed network. The core feature that makes Zilliqa scalable is sharding. And I'm just going to go up to here in the sharding details and things like that. So the core feature is sharding. It is basically a network of several smaller component networks capable of processing transaction in parallel. So think of it as sub-nodes to the initial node. And what they do is the transaction rate in Zilliqa increases as the mining network expands. Zilliqa aims to rival traditional centralized payment methods such as Visa, MasterCard. With a network size of 10,000 nodes, Zilliqa will enable a throughput which matches the average transaction rate of Visa. They want to be able to get higher than that, of course, over 10,000 nodes. It utilizes a proof of work to establish identities and perform sharding, but they are not utilizing that for the consensus mechanism. The consensus mechanism is similar to that what is used in NEO right now. It's a different style, but it is a Byzantine fault-tolerant process, consensus. It's a practical Byzantine fault-tolerant, so DBFT. NEO, Hyperledger, and a few others are utilizing this consensus mechanism to be able to do their actual consensus work instead of using proof of work, which is not as good. This does provide several advantages. Proof of work can be performed after, say, every 100 blocks. As a result, the high energy costs often associated with proof of work will not apply in Zilliqa. In fact, they estimate it could be about a tenth of what running a node and mining for Ethereum would be today. And because the consensus is reached every several blocks, Zilliqa ensures that it'll be a much more stable payout with low variance. As you know now, mining other networks, other blockchains, it's always changing because every block they have a new algorithm. With Zilliqa, they will have every few hundred blocks, the algorithm will remain the same. So you become more efficient that way. Also, with the high throughput of Zilliqa, the processing fee will be much less. So obviously, as more people get on it, more nodes go on it, it will be cheaper. Eventually, they want to get to a smart contract platform that allows for scripting that is sharding friendly, which means they will need their own specific coding language that will be for Zilliqa. It will not be Java based, which obviously is a downside because a lot of people do like using Java on a lot of new blockchain. But it'll allow users to build distributed advertising networks, conduct parallel auctions, deploy MapReduce style algorithms, shared economy. They basically want to be able to support high throughput data intensive applications via a data flow style programming language. The underlying sharding architecture allows Zilliqa to support high throughput both in terms of transaction process as well as smart contracts used. So very cool information. Going to the what they call the not so short Zilliqa technical FAQ. And I thought this was kind of funny. Let's talk about Zilliqa, and all I can think about is salt and pepper. Let's talk about all the good things, all the bad things that may be. Silly, corny, I know. So, as far as the project is concerned, there's a lot of things in this FAQ that I kind of highlighted that I believe are kind of pertinent. There is the white paper, the position paper, as I mentioned. I will go through that as well because I kind of see that there's some differences in between these. And they talk about the scalability here. So Zilliqa processes more transactions per second as more mining nodes join the network. So as more people come on, the faster the network can be. That's how scalability works with Zilliqa. Linear scalability in the case of Zilliqa means that the more miner nodes participate, the more transactions the network can process, and that happens almost at a linear rate. And most blockchains do not yield higher throughput when the network expands, rather it bottlenecks. So more people utilizing the network on Ethereum, CryptoKitties is an example. More people use it, it get bottlenecks for Zilliqa, it's the exact opposite. More people use it, the faster it gets, which is awesome. And of course, with sharding, there are many reasons why the solutions to accelerate transaction throughput rely on restricted number of nodes on the permission blockchain. So it is proof of work based, and this is mainly for defending against Sybil attacks and is also used for network sharding. Unlike other proof of work based blockchains, Zilliqa does not use it as a consensus, as I mentioned. It uses practical Byzantine fault tolerance, such as NEO. And what are the advantages? Is by using this, it's not computational intensive and has less energy than proof of work. It can leverage a small consensus group for efficiency, and it gives finality to transactions. In other words, unlike proof of work based consensus, where usually 6 confirmations are required, PBFT guarantees that no temporary fork will happen due to the consensus protocol. Hence, no confirmation is required. So quick. That's what it means. They don't want to use proof of stake right now. They think it's relatively new. They might eventually move to it if they ever find something that will work with their platform. Similar to how Ethereum can move to proof of stake now, they can eventually move to proof of stake if they wanted to. And basically sharding. What is sharding? Sharding is basically splitting up a large network of machines into parallel subcommittees or shards. I'll go into how they work with the shards and the quantity. What is the size of the shard? They have a lower bound of 600. They do this because of security meaning, but only a third of that actually is needed to run the shard. So they have 600 as the low cap. So that means they only need 200 to actually run the shard. And then, of course, they can have more people in that shard, which increases security. So they might not state 600, 1,000 might be the main reason. So kind of explain to the next paragraph. Kind of just remember that part. So is there inter-shard communication? So there's no inter-sharding that's like state channels or state sharding. So they're not working with that as of yet. And do shards have to trust other shards? No, they're completely independent. What is the expected block time based on the throughput of 2,500 transactions? We are currently testing it, obviously. In the testnet, the block time is within 2 minutes, so very cool. Smart contracts, moving forward, as I mentioned, they look on building their own platform, their own language specifically so it can work with sharding and scalability. Is it possible to implement sidechains? It will be possible through APIs communications. It just hasn't been figured out as of right yet. And they can handle and accommodate DApps like Facebook or centralized applications or decentralized where there's millions of requests per second. So they do look on being able to do that. It's not that hard for them to be able to manage. And how does it differ? Basically, they talk about the difference between Bitcoin and Zilliqa, and it just says that every block that gets committed to the blockchain will yield some reward. The difference was Bitcoin is that the nodes for every new block, they do a new algorithm. Zilliqa, a node will do proof of work for every 60 blocks. That means less energy footprint. It can be run on a CPU. Obviously, it's not as efficient though. Is it possible to mine at the same time with other coins? It can be if you're using your CPU. You can use it for GPU mining as well, but as I mentioned, GPU is obviously preferred. The mining effort is 1/10 of that of Ethereum. Is it possible to attain a majority of one shard by pure luck? So this is talking about the consensus algorithm. If there are 600 people in the shard, if you were 200 out of that, which is, it's random. Sharding nodes are random, so you should not be able to get in. But if you have enough stakes and enough, it could happen, but the probability of it is very, very low. And this is mainly for malicious attacks and things like that, or taking control of the network. Is it a self-stabilizing platform in case of attack? So as I mentioned before, it only needs a third of the Byzantine nodes. I know this was FUD about Neo previously, about if X nodes go out, will the network still go through? And it's the same thing with Zilliqa. Yes, they will. They only need a third of the Byzantine nodes to go through, and of course they will increase the amount of nodes. In an example, they could have 1,000 nodes in one shard. What is the maximum throughput? So in theory, they can go almost exponential, but they're working on where the sweet spot is on the throughput when they figure out the linear increase of the sharding. So right now they don't have that exact number, but it could go high. You know, they definitely want to hit 10,000. They could probably hit 100,000. So they're just going to figure out what the trade-off is. And is there a trade-off between failure rate, security of a shard, and a transaction scaling? So this is when I talk about if they wanted to have 600 nodes, obviously you can have more shards, which means more speed. But if they have 1,000 nodes in one shard, there's more security, but you're going to have less transaction scaling. So they need to be able to figure out, okay, maybe we'll do 1,000 per shard or 600 depending on the needs. So obviously it comes down to what works best. How does Zilliqa address the storage requirements arising from its high throughput? So this is something that they're looking on being able to work with other platforms because once transactions are fully executed, they want to be able to put that and cache it on the block, since they don't need to they will probably need to utilize that for a contract, but there are certain times where the information might not need to be stored. So they're looking at like BlueZell and Gennaro, how they can leverage their network for storage. It's kind of cool. They talk about competitors, basically saying that everybody's different, everybody has a different solution, every solution could be different, and they all could be beneficial. So they basically say that they don't have a competitor. They feel that they're a truly scalable platform without sacrificing security and decentralization. Throughput increases with the growing network size. So they think it's a great thing, and they also believe that they will be the first on the market with the sharding. So that was the tech FAQ. Network sharding, I just kind of noted some things down on the white paper. I'm not going to go too much into it because I know I am running a little late on things, but it talks about what is sharding. They talk about the actual smart contract and the computational sharding that's involved with it. Gas fees, basically they figure out that depending on the situation, you can either increase your gas fee just like you can with Ethereum, or you can reduce it depending on what needs to be done for precision, for the different types of consensus mechanisms for the projects. Comparison to existing techniques. So many proposals have surfaced to scale existing blockchain like Raiden, and moving as much computation off-chain, which is micropayments, state technologies, creating hierarchy of blockchains, which is sidechains. None of these protocols directly make the blockchain more scalable, so Zilliqa built its own platform for scalability. That's how they went this way with their sharding technology, as opposed to what others are doing for existing platforms. These are some examples of applications that could be enabled by Zilliqa: automated high-volume auctions, high-performance scientific computing, applications requiring high reliable results. These are things for the future. So some of the things that Zilliqa is looking to do in the future is state sharding, secure proof of stake. As I mentioned, this is down the road. It's an early stage right now. They don't believe in proof of stake as of right now. Storage pruning, which is basically allowing the nodes to have less information so they don't need to store all the information for future transactions. Cross-chain support with other applications, and privacy preserving computation. So a lot of cool information on Zilliqa. Going back to CoinMarketCap, they're sitting at around 4.5 cents at rank 46. They are doing very well compared to most other projects out there. They haven't really hit too much of a dip and haven't been impacted too much with the crazy markets. It has been what I would call a stable coin, and this is a pretty phenomenal. I haven't seen many coins that has kind of been stabilized through this. This is probably doing better than Tether. So what do I think of the project in a whole? I think they have an outstanding team, a great project. Sharding, I think, is very unique. I think the programming language might be a hiccup in their process of building the smart contracts when they get to that stage. But when the whole process of utilizing the blockchain with the scalability, the transactions, the testnet's been out for a few days now, and they're moving forward. People are getting into the system. I can only imagine that the growth of Zilliqa is going to be pretty good this year. They already have a decent sized market cap for what it's at right now, so I can't put any predictions. I don't like to give any predictions. I just think it is a strong project. Definitely someone should do their own research on. Let me know what you guys think. Shoot me a comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a great evening. Thanks again.